Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. This is going to be a bit of a short one here for you today because what I want to talk about is the cost of raising fry. And it is going to appear that I'm going to be picking on brine shrimp quite a bit, but it is in fact probably the most expensive part in my setup here for raising fry. I'm going to cover the cheap parts first. Paramecia, I've collected them. I have subcultured them until I got the cultures to where I need. All I do is add hay. I bought a bale of hay, 3 years ago now. Had to throw half it out because it was just taking up so much room, and I have hardly scratched the amount that I have gone through. So raising paramecia, for all intents and purposes, it's free, and that's really kind of cool. Now for my business, I buy a whole pile of different types of flake food, and I mix those together, and from my point of view at least, it is relatively cheap for me to feed my fish that. But when it comes to the small fry, when I'm talking about egg-laying ones, like currently I'm breeding zebra danios, brine shrimp is kind of necessary for that transition between when they're eating paramecia and cyclops and that sort of stuff to when they are able to take flake food. So you need to get to that point where they can transition. So these two cans you see here, that big one, I bought that years ago, and it cost me about, this is my memory by the way, so I'm not entirely sure, somewhere around about $60, $70. That little one you see there, I bought recently, and I had to wait almost 2 months for it to come, and that is currently going for about $45 for that can. And this stuff here is decapsulated brine shrimp, and if you've been watching the channel, you know I have been running an experiment to see if I can transition those fry that are feeding quite well on paramecia and cyclopses and all that small stuff into something slightly larger. They're not obviously big enough to take ground up flake food yet, so what I'm doing is I'm feeding them decapsulated brine shrimp and seeing if there's a comparison, at least when they finally do end up growing up, whether or not they are comparable to the nice bouncing around newly hatched brine shrimp, which is a lure for them. Of course, they obviously like to eat that because it is a trigger for them, and it is part of their natural way of growing up. They eat live food. So the cost, well, currently my brine shrimp, what I can buy is like those little cans, works out to somewhere between 60 and 90 cents per gram. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that little jar there is works out to be $40 roughly, $45 depending upon the source and timing and everything else. The decapsulated brine shrimp, which I can get, first off, I can order it today and get it tomorrow, maybe the day after if it's a bit slow, and it is less than 10 cents per gram. That whole thing there cost me, and I've been using it for quite a bit, and I'm talking about a considerable length of time now, because I've been trying it out on guppies first, and I'm working over onto other egg-laying stuff. So it has been used for quite some time, and I feed all my guppies in my entire fish room decapsulated brine shrimp at least once per day. And they love it, they eat it. I have some growing up exclusively on that, and when they get big enough I will let you guys have a look at them and see if you can see any differences, that sort of stuff. So it is obviously cheap and perfectly fine for me to use that. Now again, like I said, it's the tricky ones like the egg layers that are too small to eat that right off the bat, and we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, it's cost is important. I like to run my fish room as cheaply as possible, and paramecia don't cost me anything, simply because of my business. My flake food doesn't really cost me anything. This is the expensive bit, and I need to find a reasonable way of making it effective and hopefully affordable as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my rant. Thank you for listening. I have a few experiments on the way. I am going to switch over from using decapsulated and hatched brine shrimp on zebra danios to doing white clouds soon, and we'll see how that goes, see if there's any difference, because species are different. I've actually been feeding the decapsulated to reasonably newly hatched albino plecos. I don't know if it's making any difference, but it sinks, and that is part of the problem for the zebra danios and whatnot, because once you hydrate this and swirl it around and all that stuff and get it in a pipette and pour it into the aquariums, it doesn't stay suspended very long. It will eventually, it just sinks to the bottom, and it doesn't take terribly long to do that. Obviously, the hatched brine shrimp bounces around for quite a while and will live a reasonable length of time in the fresh water and have a better chance of getting to it. So these are all variables I have to keep in mind. And like I said, I'm going to do what I can, and hopefully the decapsulated brine shrimp works out. We'll have to wait and see. So again, thanks for watching. Leave comments. Let me know what you think about all this or any ideas you have for any other sorts of things. And I will see you in the next video. And bye for now.